Everybody, at this time, if you're able to rise, please do so for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, at this time, we will open up the first hearing and privilege of the floor, which will be held for 30 minutes. Each person that wishes to speak gets 5 minutes to address the board. Please just state your name and address.
I promise I'll be quick. Mike Charlie, 26 Sunnyside Road, Scotia, New York. One, I want to shout out to Principals Bednarek and Janetti. They did a fantastic job over the last couple months getting everything put together. They should get some kind of accolades or extra pay, but I know I can't say anything about that. Two, on the website, the petition for the 2024 Board of Education member. Is there any chance that you guys can vote up the 2025 petition sheet?
We will when it's open. When's that, Joe?
March 3rd? Okay. I had a couple people ask me. I just want to get that straight. And then going back to the December 9th meeting, Carl DeCesar couldn't be here, but he asked a question about the vision and the mission moving forward.
Yep.
And he was wondering if there's anything been said about that.
Yeah, I emailed Carl before. I'll answer that. That's what we can answer. I've chatted with the board about giving me their vision, and we're in the process right now of putting all of ours together to make one nice cohesive paragraph, and then we'll get that out to you.
Perfect.
Carl, I should say.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right. No one else. We'll close the first hearing and privilege of the floor. Remind everybody that we will have a second one towards the end of the meeting. At this time, I'll turn it over to Superintendent Schwartz,
who's going to be joined by business official Gia Quinto. We're going to share this time slot tonight. No, I know. Yes. Budget to budget presentation. Just an overarching thought. This is where we take a look at everything that is presently being offered and rolling that forward into the coming school year. So that'll give you sort of the big picture start. So we're going to look at our strategic and annual goals. We're going to develop an understanding of the carry forward budget, the tax levy cap, and our budget development strategy, which this year is going to really consist of keeping our heads above water, quite frankly. I'll give you a moment to take a look at our Scotia-Glenville mission statement. And I would remind you that everything we do really is based on this statement and what we want for our students. So you know I have my 4 favorite questions. What do we want for our students? How can we best achieve that? How will we know if we've been successful? And what will we do if we're not? And that always comes back to our thinking. Because we are focused on our students, we're not always going to agree about what we think are the most important things. So as we begin our budget discussions tonight, I want to encourage you to be open and speak freely about what you see personally and what you hear from community members. But I want you to always keep our kids at the center of your thoughts. You know, we have 4 strategic goals for the district. These are our broad, overarching strategic goals in the 4 areas of instruction, personnel, operations, and facilities. And then we have our annual implementation goals. So Mr. Arquette and his team have been working very hard to set goals that have actually begun this year, will continue into next year. So you can take a look at that. These are our academic goals. And certainly they're not the only things we're working on, but they are things that are critically important. You know that the State Education Department has adopted a New York State Portrait of a Graduate, and that we will be working to align our curriculum to that Portrait of a Graduate, as all New York State schools, public schools, will be doing. And then there are some other things here that we believe will support us in that mission and help us get there. A little differently, Mr. Arquette has brought to the table whole child goals, so things that we want to do that are part of the instructional program, but certainly focus on each of our children as individuals. And you might recall some of these from last year. They looked a little bit different, but student attendance continues to be something we are very both concerned about and encouraging. We are working on social emotional learning with Capital Connect. That again is something that has come up often in our budget discussions, students and mental health. We continue to work on our DEI plan. So Mr. Arquette's committee is meeting and my committee are meeting separately. And I believe we will have some recommendations from Mr. Arquette's committee later this spring. Parent Square has allowed us to communicate, I think, in a much quicker and cleaner way than our more cumbersome Blackboard. We're very interested in wellness, both for students, and you're going to see down the way here, for staff. And the cell phone task force will come to us with recommendations. We were meeting as Governor Hochul last year was announcing that no more cell phones in schools. She sort of backed off of that. If you've read this month's NYSBA paper, they are talking about making that a local decision, but from bell to bell there will be no phones. So I will be very interested to see what Rick and his team will bring us when they're ready with that. Our personnel goals, again, we are as good as our people, so trying to make sure that folks have not only what they're required to have, that 3rd bullet, but that we are engaging them in other ways to make being here the most positive experience we can. And we were trained this year, many of our staff, in CSTAG, that last bullet, and we will continue to look at that training, which is a way for us to look at what's going on in our schools and respond comprehensively to that. Okay. And then in operations, which is technically Mr. Giaquinto's area, we will continue to do our regularly scheduled and required health and safety meetings, security assessments for each building, such as the ones done by Needham Risk Management, assessment of our required transition to electric vehicles, and of course that right now is in play throughout the state. There's quite a contingent coming out of the North Country that is looking to have this reversed. We'll see what happens with that. And our stop arm technology on buses, which you know came out of people passing stopped school buses. And finally, facilities, which is also Mr. Giaquinto's area. Our joint transportation agreement with BHBL is entering its 5th year, which I find amazing. We will start the construction of our safety vestibules at Lincoln, Glenwarden, Glendale, and the middle school this summer, so those are on track. Our required inspections, and then our water testing is due again in the fall of 2025. And there are those working questions. And with that, I'll turn it over to Drew.
Just to finish up what Susan mentioned on the vestibules, Sacandaga and the high school will be done in the second season, 2026. The reason is there's more work going on at those schools, so we wanted to kind of combine it with the bids to do their work the second season and not the first season. There's less vestibule work that's required in those other elementary schools in the middle school. So now into the carry forward budget, which is the economic impact of carrying the programs and support services in this year's budget forward into 25-26. So we're looking at a $69.2 million spend for 25-26, or going up by $4.116 million, or 6.33% increase. The gap to the cap, as I kind of tell that to Susan now, is about almost $2.9 million. And you can see how it manifests itself with the state increase being 2.54%, or $630,000. We're losing pilot revenue, which are payment in lieu of tax agreements, which allow a business to stay off the tax rolls with a separate agreement. 3 pilots are sunsetting at the end of this year, and they will move to the tax rolls. So it's a decline in revenue as far as the tax cap goes, but it's good you get more room under the cap with it. And I'll go over that a little more detail as you go with the future slides, what that means on the assessed value. Reserves and interest will go down $35,000, slight decrease. And the tax cap at 3.25 will allow $1,085,180. So we would basically, to stay under the cap or at the cap, would only have 1.263 in increased revenue. That's your gap of $2,853,022. The funding just not keeping up with the expenditures at this point. Next slide. So what's driving the 6.33? It's amazing, in 700 line items you can break it down so succinctly. Or either that or I got tired, I'm not sure. But health and dental is a huge driver, $1.7 million, or 17% increase. What's happening there is the prescription drug on the specialty drugs is, for the second year in a row, projected to be 30% or more increase on the rates. That's on the Highmark program. We have 2 programs, CDPHP, which is an insured product. We have a Highmark product, which the drug is carved out and self-insured. That self-insured piece is going to go up at least 30% next year, which drives this increase to 17%. And I don't know when it's going to end, because specialty drugs are coming in faster than we can keep up with them. We're trying to put guardrails in the consortium, but that's a collective bargaining methodology at this point. Salary and wages, 4%, $1.1 million. We predicted that. Special ed, as you have seen in the fiscal projection, we had 13 new students from a year ago. We budgeted 4, so that's a 40% increase in the tuition there. And the rest is basically pension and FICA derives off the salary. Summer school, $63,000. That's the change in the budget, because it was partially funded by the CARES Act in the previous budget. We are seeing a decrease in debt service based on some debt falling off and some favorable interest rates, and the out-of-district transportation runs are going down by $116,000. That derives your $4.1 million spend increase. The budget does reflect at this point the 10 retirements, 8 teachers, 2 teaching assistants. We're replacing the teachers at step 12. That's where they've been coming on average this year. And the teaching assistants at step 1. It only yields $87,000 because of the cost of the benefits we have to carry into retirement. So not a big savings, breakage savings anymore because of health insurance. This is just to show you that how health insurance since 2020-21 has escalated. It was pretty flat during COVID. I told you that was kind of a false bottom because people weren't going to the doctor for elective surgeries. And even so, you can see kind of a normal increase. 24-25, we did have a 30% increase on the high-mark drug spend, but CDPHP, we had a rate decrease because of a favorable rebate recalculation gave us a rate decrease. So that's why you didn't see such a big spike last year, but it was in there. And this year it just came to full throttle on us that the drug spend is just something that's really concerning at this point going forward. Go ahead. Out-of-district placements, you can also see the stable, if not, escalation, 3-4% over the years, and then the big jump this year. And we didn't see it coming. None of us did. So this is just the definition of what the tax cap is. It's more for your reference going forward. Nothing's changed in the law since 2013 when it started. That's a continuation of how it works. Again, it's for your reference. I'm not going to read it all over.
And I would just remind the board that you have the actual sheet with the calculation as part of your packet.
So for 25-26, the maximum allowable tax levy limit is 3.25%. That's more than 2%, and it's going up more than 2% because of the pilots going down, creates room under the cap. Our debt service, the capital exclusion, that creates another push as far as getting more room under the cap. So 3.25 compared to 2.86 last year, that means we're allowed, if we go out with a 50% majority, to raise taxes by $1,085,180. That's 3.25% from last year's levy. The first draft of the budget is $69.2 million. That's a 6.33% increase. That would require $3.9 million to balance the budget, or 11.79%. That would cause the district to be $2.853 million over the tax cap. At this point, the tax rate would be 10% because of the assessed value growth. The three pilots that I alluded to sunsetting will add $21.5 million. That's conservative. That's all I know at this point because the tax rules are not set until May. But that $21.5 million will add $581,000 of tax revenue off the tax rolls. That's why you get a difference between the levy and the rate. And again, tax rolls are not set to the end of May, so I expect that $21.5 million could be higher. But that's all I could get out of the assessor at this time of it. So the history of the tax cap is 11 times at or under, 1 time over. And I have an asterisk there why we went over it was a 0.8 cap. It went out with a 1.76. That required a majority of 60% or more. On March 1, the board has to give me the directive of what they want to do, at or under, above, whatever. They can change their mind all the way up to when we adopt the budget. This is a historical, and I'm not going to read every year. Because I don't do very well at DMV with these charts, but what I wanted to point out here is that look at the outlier of 25-26, where we have a 3.25, where we had a median of 3.07 and an average of 2.73 over the history. I think it's 13 years. And then look at the spend, 6.33, we're averaging 2. So you can see we're in a outlier. We haven't been this far off the this much gap since 2009-10. We had a $2.8 million deficit at that point, which was closed by $1 million of additional state aid when the legislators settled with the governor, and then we laid off people. But as soon as we laid them off, we never laid them off because we got Obama's era money, American Restoration Recovery Act, kind of closed the gap after the budget. We were fortunate. That's a long time between budget gaps. So about a year ago, when we ended the budget, I did a prognostication of a 5-year plan. So I extracted out 25-26, and I was projecting a 4.11 spend. We're at 6.33. The reason I'm off is I did not forecast such a high health insurance. It's almost double what I thought, and special ed. You can see on the funding, we were pretty close on our projection last year to where we are right now. The difference is on the spend, and that's why we're at 11.79 tax levy versus a 7 that was projected. It's all in the spend. You can look at the enrollment. We projected last year, I think it's 2,000 to 227, and we're 106 below that, and we're actually below where we thought we'd be for next year. So trend isn't favorable on enrollment. This is the impact if we went out with 11.79 tax levy and a 10% rate increase, what this would do to the home that's assessed at 160,000 or 200,000, not including STAR. You can see it's $400 almost on a 160K house and almost $500 on a $200,000 home. So very significant impact if that was the budget that we went out with. This is the cost to replace the Step 12 and a Step 1 teaching assistant. And what I wanted to show is the climbing cost of fringe benefits. That 6% of the benefits are 6% of a teacher's salary and 119% of a teaching assistant's salary at these steps. Very significant. When I started a long time ago, I think it was in the 30s, so that's how much it's gone up over the years. The benefits keep taking more and more of the slice of the pie. As you know, we had presentations and discussed a electric vehicle infrastructure at the transportation facility. I'll be bringing that, of course, up for discussion, but I assume we want to go forward with it. If the public supports this and the funding dissipates, what's going on at the federal level, it doesn't mean we go forward with it. Just because we get a favorable vote doesn't mean we have to go forward with it if the funding changes. I wanted to let you know I've done some research on this, and we all know what's going on at the federal level right now. It's kind of a lot of uncertainty.
So we will be gathering information from you regarding your negotiables and non-negotiables. And I will just say, I know this is always difficult for folks to tell me what they'd be willing to let go. But if you think about this in terms of where you would want to land for a tax rate, you know that whether you're thinking the 10 or 11 or 6 or the 3.24, we're going to have to make reductions to get there. So we will have that discussion on the 24th. And I know no one wants to get rid of anything. And of course, I do have ideas for you. But we are going to have to take a pretty hard look at where we're at. We want to be mindful of our strategic and annual goals, and certainly those things that are required by the state that we must do, or we put our foundation aid in jeopardy. The state is always quick to threaten to hold your state aid if you don't do what you're supposed to do. It's one of the joys of public education. We'll begin with our mandates in mind. For example, it's 22 credits to graduate from high school. We have to make sure students have minimally enough courses to gather those 22 credits, and we don't want to do what's minimal. We want to do what's really in people's best interests, as we are trying to do now. Then we can layer on classes, programs, or other wants. We'll utilize our pro forma calculation for any new hires, and we will be mindful of our class size targets and enrollment trends. Needless to say, if we really are trying to reduce the budget back to the tax levy limit of 3.24, that's actually going to be talking about reductions in staffing, RIFs, not additional staff. This will be posted. Julia will be writing a summary article for tomorrow that will appear on our website, and of course we are always open to questions. Thank you.
Team, does anybody have any questions for Drew or Susan right now?
I had a couple questions. For the special ed with the over 1 million increase, that's for 13 students? Yes, and that's a mandate, it's not like we have a choice in
No.
that, correct? And then, I'm curious about what, if any, effect we need to be concerned about if we do lose the Department of Education at the federal level, because I know that it could affect lunches, that can affect special ed, disabilities, some other issues as well. Is that something that we need? I mean, I don't think it's going to necessarily happen tomorrow. However, I think we can't be blind to it as well because it could happen. Is that something that we need to consider with this year's budget?
If, in your external audit, when that was presented in that audit packet, there's a actual breakout of our federal entitlements, which is IDEA, the title grants. I believe it was around $3 million is what we have in federal funding. If that was pulled, then your deficit's $6.8 million. So we would cease to exist if they pull the funding on special needs and title schools. We'd never be able to make that up.
The funding for this year is already allocated, so it is not this school year. It really is what happens going forward.
Yeah.
And is it possible to get the numbers for things that we have done where we received money from other sources, but now we're not receiving the money anymore, to see what, if any, difference that has? Or I love that we did school lunches and we're able to pay for everybody, but maybe if we could get numbers on that to see if that's something that we can still do for every student versus.
Well, that's good for another 3 years. We're under the community eligibility program, so
Okay.
we've got a 4-year. We're in our first year of it.
Good.
We'll probably get an extension this spring for another 3 years.
Oh, awesome.
Based on
Okay.
our, so, thanks.
That program to see.
Well, it's federally funded.
And historically, we haven't gone, it looks like we haven't gone above the 3% since 1819, correct?
All right, so for our next meeting, come with your negotiables and non-negotiables, and then discussion on the tax rate, where we feel comfortable going out at this for next school year. Does anyone else have any questions at this time?
And that certainly was a lot of information. So if you come up with questions, please feel free to share them with me, and I will make sure that we get the responses to you.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to reports and updates. PTA?
Oh, yeah. So a couple of things happened past Friday with some stuff going on in Glenwarden, Lincoln. Next council meeting's on the 16th this month. District Science Fair is on the 6th of March. We had the staff basketball game on the 13th of March. You playing?
Oh, ref.
Oh, you're rep, okay. Founders Day tickets are still on sale until the 1st of March. I think the dinner is on the 18th of March, so that's all I have.
Thank you. Audit committee?
Yes, so thanks, Hal. We should be getting the RFP out for external audit services on the 14th of this month, receive them back on the 26th of March, and then bring our recommendation to the audit committee on May 2nd.
Beautiful, thank you. Policy committee?
Most of our work is done at this point as far as going through all the policies. Now we have to go on to the next step of getting all these changes actually made to our list of policies and get all this up to date. So we're trying to work on a plan of how to get everything incorporated that's been done.
Beautiful. Board of Education goals. Policy is one of them, obviously. Kim, do you want to tell me about
Yeah, so a bunch of us I talked before we joined the career day, the job fair that the students have done. They did a great job. Kim and I have been working on career pathways for students and talking, a little bit with our alumni, what pathways we had taken and what classes were important to it, and how can we create a career day for our students so that they could see some of these careers and be able to ask questions like, should I be taking this at BOCES or should I be taking these classes here, and what was useful for you, and having those conversations with our students, especially with the trades. Our graduation rate is a little lower, and we kind of want to focus on a career path to graduation, but also bring those trades back in, because the trades are something that our students have been asking for. Is there anything else you wanted to update on that?
No, I think you did a good job.
So that's kind of where we're kind of at with on that goal for graduation.
Beautiful. Our other board goal is forums, which we had our first one last month, so I appreciate everyone that attended, that participated in that. Had some good feedback through the community about it, a step in the right direction. I've reached out to NYSSBA and our Area 7 representative for some coaching and some chat, so of course I haven't heard back yet. So as soon as I do, I will let the board know, and we can plan an action, hopefully. Budget, we just went over budget, so we don't have to go on that foot again right now. All right, excuse me, moving on. If I get a motion to...
Did you want legislation?
Oh, yes.
Oh, was that there? Did I miss it? Oh, that was the first one. I'm sorry, Kim, go ahead.
That's quite all right.
Sorry about that. I'm going to congregate about PTA, so...
That's all right. Just two things. One, just last week, the New York State Department of Ed sent out a notice that they changed their formula for knowing the percentage of those who are chronically absent. They keep calling it algebra, so that's not, I'm not a math person, so I'll let the professionals deal with it. But one of the things I thought was interesting is that it gives more points for each student who attends school more than 90% of the year. But the thing I found really disheartening is that they found through this formula that more than a third of high school students miss more than 10% of the school year. And that just seemed like a lot to me. So I don't know if this formula is going to necessarily change that, but I just thought it was pretty eye-opening, and kind of went with what you were saying, Susan, about how our district is just one of the many, many districts in the state that are combating that issue. And then the other thing is with respect to electric buses, the EVs, and some legislators are trying to push a bill through. I will warn, however, it is the minority party that's doing it. And I solely say that, not for any political reason, but solely to say that since they are the minority, the numbers speak, so we're going to need some of the majority to come on that side. But I will keep fingers crossed, because even though Drew has been doing a great job getting us ready for that, I think if we can do something to either postpone it or make some changes with the requirements, that would be even more helpful. That's it.
Thank you. All right. If I can get a motion, please, and a second for resolution number 7.
I'd like to make a motion to increase the maximum income level for granting a partial exemption from real estate property taxes for school purposes to certain persons 65 years of age or over pursuant to Section 467 of the real estate tax law.
Thank you, Jen. Second.
I'll second.
Do you have any questions on that discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? So moved. I need a motion, please, for resolution item number 8.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the gift and donation from Michael, I'm going to butcher this, I'm sorry, Riordan to Lincoln Elementary.
Thanks, Jen. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Questions on this discussion?
I noticed the agenda says the amount is 500, but the resolution says it's 550. Do we know which one it actually is?
The resolution.
Resolution? Okay, so it's actually 550 then now.
All right, so we will, if everyone's in agreement, we'll move that with the correction at 550. Thanks, Kim. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Can I get a motion, please, for item number 9 on MOA?
I'll motion to approve the memorandum and agreement by and between the Scotia-Glenville Central School District and the Scotia-Glenville Administrators Association.
Thank you. A second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Or abstain? So moved. Can I get a motion for item number 10, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the revised cell phone allowance as submitted.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Have any questions or comments on that? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? So moved. Can I get a motion for communications, please?
I'll move communications A and B, staffing 1 through 6, and the placement of students with disabilities as submitted.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Jack. Anyone have any questions or comments on all of that? All right, if not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? All right, so moved. On to other business.
I had a couple things. First, I have a list of, the past couple of weeks have been great with our tartans have been really representing the district. We had the middle school band and orchestra, and the high school choraleers were chosen to participate in the Suburban Council Music Festival with 15 other schools. Then we had several students from the high school orchestra and band and the middle school chorus. They participated in all-county music. Our tartan cheerleaders won first place in Class B at Colony Wolfpack competition and second place in the Shaker Sweetheart competition. Our girls modified basketball defeated Amsterdam, Glens Falls, and South Glens Falls. Our Lady Tartan basketball team defeated South Glens Falls, Glen Falls, and Hudson Falls. Girls indoor track and field won the Foothills Indoor Track and Field Championship, and the boys placed second, only missing first by a half point. The varsity basketball boys were victorious against Schuylerville, and the varsity wrestling won third place at the Class TC Championship and celebrated their senior night last week. And several of our high school students were selected to have their art be a part of the 2025 Art in 3 Dimensions show. I thought it was amazing. Like, it just kept coming out of how many of our tartan students really were doing amazing. And kind of in light of that, the board has been talking, and we also think that our staff and teachers and administration has really been working hard. And the board wants to do something to acknowledge that. So we've decided we're going to come up with an employee of the month, hopefully doing it at the level of the staff, teachers, and administration. Our goal is to start next month to start those acknowledgments. We're going to be creating a nomination form so the community as a whole can nominate people towards that, but this is going to be a board-selected acknowledgement because the board wants our community to know how great our teachers and staff and administration are and how hard they've been working, and we want to be able to show our appreciation.
Absolutely. Thank you for the update.
And I wanted to add to that too, that it was nice to see our students wearing their elementary school, our seniors wearing their elementary school t-shirts at the games and even at the cheer competition this last week. So it was really nice to see that tartan pride from when they were little coming up. So it was kind of sweet to see.
We got to really thank all the people that made that happen, from our athletics department to our elementary PTAs and our booster club, especially putting that all together. I think that's something we want to bring back next year. That was really great to see the kids connect like that.
Yeah, they did a great job. And the sense of pride was really sweet to see.
Good stuff. Any other business anybody would like to talk about? All right, if not, we will open up the second hearing and privilege of the floor at this time. Just remind everybody, each person that wishes to speak gets 5 minutes. We have a total of 30 minutes for this next section. All right, so everybody stepped up to the microphone. We will close the second hearing and privilege of the floor. And I'll ask for a motion to adjourn, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second it.
You all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed or abstaining? So moved. Thank you. Thank you, Julia, for attending tonight.